every corner twice as bright. They'll be my treasures forever. When I can't hold you tight, I'll see the Stockholm lights. The Stockholm lights, the Stockholm lights. Tomorrow feels a year away, like the seconds, the beginning and the end. But if in time it's yesterday, your picture's gonna bring it home to me again. The world is waiting up, the world is waiting, half a step beyond our door. And if it's not enough, I wanna see the stuff the world has got in store. I wanna take it all in, I'm falling. The cityscape by night, wanna catch in my photos. Where you go, every corner twice as bright. They'll be my treasures forever. When I can't hold you tight, I'll see the Stockholm lights. The Stockholm lights, the Stockholm lights.
Hello, hello. Let's see if that's working. Hope everyone's doing well on this fine Saturday morning, Friday night if you're US, and midnight in Europe. Yeah, so hope you guys are having a good time. I'm just going to do a quick voice check. Cool. All right. Thanks for joining me today. Yep, can be picking up where we left off, which was our sentiment analysis. So we're going to be testing our split sentence, making sure that that actually runs up to scrutiny. What we're going to do is we're going to... I don't really want to write tests for it, so at the moment. So my goal is right now is just to basically make sure that but I need to test the logic to make sure that it works. So let's just close that down and let's actually go ahead and open up. So essentially what we have here is, I did have it open. We have our get sentiment. So essentially this is our function app that we're calling. That's basically using PowerShell's invoke web request as well as the HTML agility pack. If you're not familiar with the HTML agility pack, it's a C# library that you can add that really makes it easy to web scrape. So I'm just going to quickly turn this down for everyone so I can actually hear myself talk. Okay, cool. And so essentially it's a C# library that you add into the... actually, I'm just going to quickly shut this door. So essentially it's a library that you add to C#, which allows you to select on nodes. So essentially you can do XPath lookups on your elements within your HTML code, which makes it really easy to actually web scrape because we basically can scrape based on IDs. Now we can use HTML and pass it through that, but it's much easier to use. It's much easier to use Agility Pack because we can just write an XPath query. So anyway, so essentially we have a whole bunch of supporting classes, and I'm just going to add some regions here. We have a whole bunch of classes that are basically used just for the user sentiment. Now the goal here is to actually add user sentiment and basically start joining all that data together so that we're also capturing stock price at time of posting, things like that. So then we can correlate that information to the time that it was posted, and then basically start capturing stock trades. So we can then start looking at what's considered a bot trade, what's considered a human trade. Then we can actually start running AI against all that, and also then matching what impact the forum is actually having on the stock price. And then using all that information, should be able to plug in a user and then find out what impact they're actually doing, whether they're deliberately making adjustments, if they're pretending to be who they are. Basically, this tool should be able to find that out just based on their behavior and their and the trade. It should also be able to actually identify the reverse, so it should be able to identify duplicate users based on trades. So if you've got multiple hedge fund managers, you got multiple hedge fund managers who are basically trying to play that stock to do something so they can invest in it or sell on it. They might be using different people, so essentially we're capturing that data and then using the trades as well, so you can actually associate people based on those trades and that user sentiment that they're trying to gauge. So that's the plan anyway. My cat might come and visit me today, but that's the idea. Sorry. So the next thing we need to do, I'm just going to add some regions. So we need to test our function, a couple of functions here. So you can see there's a few functions we have here. We're not quite ready to send to sentiment yet. So we've got, for example, split paragraph, which essentially will take a any data, any post, and then it splits it according to the rules of user sentiment analysis. So essentially there's rules that basically it can't be over 5,000 characters or something along those lines. And so then we can allow us to kind of build out our batch to send off to sentiment analysis. So we've done that. We're going to need to test this component. I think I can actually probably write a unit test for this, to be honest. We can actually probably plug in a lot of data to be able to actually test that. And the easiest way I'm thinking, we've got a char limit, we've got the paragraph. What we can actually do, I actually might create a folder. I'm going to call this tests. And what we're going to do is, we're going to run the sentiment analysis. We're going to capture that data. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to dump it out to a .xml file. And then I can just write a quick pester test to actually test that. So I need to make sure that this stands up to scrutiny. And then we've got convert to rest body. And essentially this is what's going to actually build out our body. So to actually send to sentiment analysis. So before we do that, let's go ahead and let's write a quick test for split paragraph. Now, I'm just thinking how I'm going to do this. Alright, so what we need to do here, first things first, we need to jump on hot copper. Let's take old mate here. We're just going to see what he's been up to. So what we need to do, I think this is having an issue here. So what I'm going to do is just comment that out. Now this code won't be run, so we should be able to get around it. We can go ahead and start up our function app. We can at least get a bit of a demo of how it works, and then what I can do is, well, it's supposed to start up. We can then fire it up and then see how, if we can get the data out, and then we can just run that data as a unit/integration test to validate our function. And it broke. Why did it break? Host error occurred. Oh great. I've actually migrated my profile to a different SSD on my machine, so I might have broken things. I need to actually reinstall function app. Oh man. Just trying to think what I need to do. Okay, we need to go to Docker. I don't want that. Where's the document? So here it is. Just quickly go through here and we'll have a quick look. Steve's post. Get started. Here we go. Getting started. Questions, issues, features. Should I didn't honestly think about it. I was like, yeah, I'll do a robocopy, it'll be fine, and it wasn't fine. There was things that it didn't do. Installing PowerShell modules using PowerShell modules and functions. What was that error anyway? Let's quickly get that error again. So it was custom pipeline Azure. Okay, let me see if I can re-add it. I'm hoping that it can be just as easy as that. Looks like it is. Cool. That makes it much easier. That was an easy one. So we can now just hit this. So all we need to do is let's just jump into a different console, and we can just go invoke. We just go REST request. Invoke REST method, a URI, and then what we can do is I think it's user equals, and we're just going to Shazam 68. So we'll go ahead and copy him. Let's go ahead and run it. Okay, missing username. Is it user or username? Like, I honestly, you just haven't used this for a lot of things get pushed out of my head, so I forget what the syntax is. Oh, it's username. So we can hit that. Hopefully that gives us our content. It should be pretty busy now. So if we head back to our console, you can see here it's actually running now. So we're now getting data. Honestly, I think this would be way better suited as a durable function than just a standard function app. But oh well. Alright, I think we've got content. So we go back here. If we go REST request. Okay, cool. We've got a whole bunch of data. So let's just have a look at posts. And let's have a look at message body. Okay, cool. Alright, so what we can do now is if we've got that content, let's XML, literal path. I should just go path tests. And let's just call this post.xml. Alright, cool. So what we've done now is we've got a XML of all that content. Now XML essentially is a serialized form of the PowerShell objects. So it's specific to PowerShell, which allows you to serialize and deserialize and preserve type. I use type loosely because essentially type has a deserialized type name prefix, but essentially it helps you kind of keep the same type. So when it comes to testing, it makes it much easier to deal with things. So so now we've got that content. Let's actually go ahead and test it. So what I need to do is write some tests. I'm actually just going to call this a mock. Let's just call this mocks. Okay, so what we need to do now is let's go ahead and create a test, and we'll just call this what's this? Split paragraph. I'm just gonna call this yes, we got test.ps1. So we're gonna write some unit tests. Now this is going to be this is a loose integration and unit test, but this will be fine. So it's going to be a DRAPH type unit. It's technically not integration because we aren't calling our content. So the first thing we need to do, this can actually be a really basic test for now. What we just need to do is test that functionality. I have no idea what this is going to do, so, and we've got content all over the shop there. So, so we're just going to say, what I usually do is I kind of split everything out in the AAA, so it kind of helps me mentally think about it. So what I'm going to do here is we need to import our CliXML. We're also going to need to dot source in. What are we in? User sentiment. So it'll be profile.ps1. I think I'm going to need to double escape that just because. Because we're going to need to. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go tests.mocks/post.clientxml. So dot source the function in, we've got that. So essentially now if I go split paragraph, I might just quickly run this so I can actually get my content in. Make sure CliXML is working. You can see what I mean when you can see there that it essentially is the same object. It just makes it much easier to deal with things. So now if we go split paragraph, hopefully that works. Is that in? Yep, cool. Okay, so what we can do now, actually this is going, because we're testing multiple, this is going to go in a context block, and we need to actually wrap this in a before, like so, and then what we can do is we can do a for each, that's in CliXML, for each message and message body. So then what we can do here is we can say and we can just stick this inside a context block. So we can say context, and then we can say testing, and then we're going to use our placeholder, and then going to say message. Actually no, we're not going to do, I'm not going to do that because it's going to make it look really wonky. So what I'm thinking I can probably do here is, just gonna do a counter. Hello there. How are you? How's it's actually no, it'll be afternoon and yeah, good. I'm really good. It's gotten a little bit more serious here in Australia. They basically pretty much banned everything. So, g'day, Brett. Oh man, everyone's on tonight. Yeah, yeah, it's getting really serious here in Australia. So basically, the whole, obviously we've had the mass gatherings cancellation. Now we've got the you can't, if it's any less than 50 people, you have to keep 4 meters apart, which is going to be interesting. So essentially, don't have people around at your house. So it's pretty much for the next couple of months, yeah, everyone's staying home and chilling out. My wife's going to go absolute bananas. So yeah, how's it all over in your side of the world at the moment? I'm just going to. I think I'm just going to say testing message and then select first. Select object. This is kind of like just a bit of a hackney, just to kind of at least get my test done. And I'm going to say first. Actually, I just kind of want to test that. Oh, that's a good start. That's a problem. You can see there that you got content there that's null. So this is going to be very interesting. Let's see what happens. And people they really love this. Same here. I tried a live stream with Bub earlier on. It was carnage. It was I confirm lol. Yeah, Bub's still asleep at the moment. She's still dreaming about all the stuffed toys, and potentially giving my cat a hug this morning. We will see. But yeah, trying to stream with Bub is just like, you can't, like, unless you want to like read story time for everybody, like it doesn't work. Like I had a company meeting yesterday and we were I literally had Bub sitting on my lap and she just kept running away, like running off and bringing me a book, and like obviously I'm like listening to the meeting, so I'm just kind of turning the pages of the book and she's just like, you know, kind of humming and like talking to herself quite happily, and I'm thinking, okay, this is not too bad. He trashed the office. Did he trash your perfect setup? A series about APIs for PowerShell. I did do a talk. I actually submitted a talk about REST as the Wild West. I did do, like, I have done an introduction to RESTs. I will be doing one for the Denver user group. So I do have a talk about that and teaching like how to actually interact with an API. Like I use Philips Hue, which is a home automation system, which we have here. And their API documentation is like really good, and I mean, it's exceptional. It kind of drove me to write the talk, and I think I don't know how you find it, but I generally find when I'm reading documentation on APIs, it can be either really bad or it can be really good, and it can be somewhat in the middle. But like I've worked with documentation out there that it's just like they've obviously it's their first try at writing an API, fair enough. But you know, from a consumption perspective, it's really quite I'd say dangerous, but it's really just confusing, and it does not make sense. I've seen things out there as well that just misuse HTTP methods. So while there's a standard within, for example, REST or SOAP, I don't generally deal with much SOAP, but essentially if there's a standard defined in REST, it kind of gets thrown out the window when you start dealing with stuff. That's exactly right. I spend a lot of time trying to work out how to kind of work around it, and like it varies. So you'd be like, yep, nah, I figured out this API, I'm gonna go, like I could be able to figure this API out, and then you're gonna sit there scratching your head trying to work out why it's not working. And they've got some weird ass auth mechanism, which is like just you scratch your head how you're going to be able to secure your client application when you're using that. Like you're basically just passing clear text passwords. There's no OAuth. There's no like, and you're just like I'm like, how do I deal with this? You know, and yeah. But I do have some stuff out there at the moment. Like I did record my talk. Let me go find it. Just got to get around all the hysteria. PowerShell user group. Videos. Playlist. Oh, hello, kitty cat. Oh, you're coming back. PowerShell 101 live. So I did do this one, which was PowerShell on the internet. I'll just paste that there. Did that paste? Yes, I did. And then I did another one, which essentially it's a similar one. Let's see if I can find that. Rispug replay. So this was another one I did, which kind of more focuses on the REST components, where the other one really kind of focuses on SOAP and REST. Yeah, which is really quite, yeah. The Twitch API was okay, but there was a lot of missing bits and nuances. Like this is because this is the interesting thing. It's the nuances that basically trip you up. Like what's one of the biggest nuances that you had with it? Well, we're going to do that. I'm just going to quickly work on select object. Oh, select first. No, I'm just going to say 10. Okay, that did not work. Okay, we're substringing it. I'm just going to substring the oh, you know what we're going to do? I'm going to put a counter in there. I think I'm just going to spend a lot of time. There's an old and new API with different and auth was different depending on whether you're getting or posting. So it wasn't using the header, or was it just like some random... Was it using like a cookie or something? Because I've seen some use cookies. I'm just going to do this. This is a terrible test, but we will just see. We're going to do that. Oh, it needs to go there. Why doesn't that work? That should work. Oh, because it's got to actually go for the dollar. Like that. So actually, no, that's fine, because it'll index it after, so it'll be 0 and then it'll be 1 after that. Can't remember off the top of my head, but it was basic auth and forget and OAuth post. Okay, that's different, but this kind of reinforces my original point. It's the Wild West. I admittedly, one of the things I wanted to do with this talk was it was going to be pretty funny, because I wanted to like get one of those giant foam hats, and if I got accepted for the Summit talk, and then basically what I was going to do is just wear that hat around for the entire time at Summit, and then be like, then I'd be known as the rest guy, because he'd basically having this crazy talk with like looking at all the different nuances within APIs. There's actually one nuance which I think you might find very interesting, Brett. Actually, okay. Since Summit's cancelled, technically I can play this demo for you guys. Let me just go grab this demo. This is like a tiny sneak peek, which I can actually show because the Summit's off, which is a bit tragic. Let me see if I can find it. Presentation, demos, videos. Okay, so essentially, I have a so what I have here is, this is my client JavaScript that is calling my Azure Function app. And so essentially what's happening here is I need my function app, my durable function app is actually validating the token. So it has a token validation that it needs to go through. This is very interesting when it comes to scopes, because scopes when you specify your scopes matter. So I'm like, mate, I'll just give it user read. It should be fine. You know, I can validate the token. Well, technically you can't, and I'll show you why. So I'll quickly play this. So you can see here what I'm going to do is I'm going to comment out the user read. And then we'll save this. We're just going to quickly go back to my token here. I'm just going to quickly log in and get a token. And so I've just printed the token out in the console here. I'm just going to grab this token. So the one thing that's actually important to note is that when you paste the token and you look at it, it's got a nonce. And nonce is essentially developed. It's a graph only thing. But essentially, it's a attribute that essentially prevents replay attacks. So, because it prevents replay attacks, you can't actually validate the token. So any token validation that you try and do client side doesn't work. Token validation with an API management won't work. So what you have to actually do is you basically have to create your own scopes, which fair enough, you know, that's how obviously it works. But it's one of the biggest gotchas that you have when it comes to dealing with token validation. And so let's place this back in a JWT.io. Man, I love recorded demos. I can like show the demo without having to actually do anything. And essentially here, if I go ahead and paste it again, then obviously we don't have that attribute set, and then obviously I can validate my token. And this is the issue I was having ages ago with trying to actually validate my token. So yeah, that's a little gotcha that I found within that not many people talk about with Microsoft Graph, is that if you basically use a graph scope, Microsoft will automatically append that specific attribute onto the token, which prevents replay attacks and validation. And the only place you can validate it is in Graph. So, and you can't. There's no process for you to be able to validate it. Graph just does it for you. So, anyway, yeah, good stuff. So let's go back to writing our tests. So we're gonna do that. Auth is one of the most difficult things. I'm actually thinking about doing a talk just about like, I did a lightning talk actually. I'll quickly link that because that was actually a really good talk. Where was it? I did do a talk about OAuth. Where is it? Where is it? So essentially I did a talk that talked about OAuth 2. It's an interesting concept because OAuth actually works well, provided that but the thing is, there's always nuances within different flavors of OAuth 2. So some people might use the client secret, the client ID, and the authorization key to get their token, where other people might just say, hey, just give me the client ID and the auth token. Sorry, the authorization key. So it really is, it's one of those ones where, again, even like everything is so just gray when it comes to APIs. It's actually quite frustrating. Okay, so we've got that content now. I can actually so we've got split paragraph. And what we can do here is, if it's so we're going to say, what's split paragraphs parameter? Paragraph. We can go message, and then we can go, I think there's a limit, char limit. We're just going to give it, I'm pretty sure you can paste in the link, Brett. If you can't, just send me it, just IM it to me and I'll paste in the link, or you guys can IM each other. It's all good. Maybe I'm if Are you a Twitch affiliate, Brett? I'm just gonna give it a character limit of 50 because we need to kind of work with 50. Yeah, we're gonna write a whole bunch of different dynamic results here. So if message dot length is greater than equal than 50, we're going to do a whole bunch of tests here. So we're just going to say it should have split the content. No, it didn't work. Yeah, that didn't work. I see the 3 asterisks. Should split the content, so I've got that. And then I'm just gonna say else should be a single message. Now we actually need to work out how many messages that this thing needs to have. So work out how many messages this needs. Oh man, that's going to be tough because I don't even know what it's. That's actually difficult to do without actually running the code. So we're just going to say it should contain multiple messages. Not a good test because we need to test we actually need to test the exact amount, but I'm kind of just writing a behavior test at the moment. And what we can say is result dot count should be 0. Oh, should be 1. Result count should be I'm just gonna say it should be 2. No, I'm not an affiliate. I'm too regular to have any kind of regular viewers. I was gonna say, Brett, because what you can do is I'm not I have the numbers to be an affiliate, but I choose not to, because then what I can do is you can use restream.io to just basically simulcast to YouTube and Twitch. So then you don't have to record and upload to YouTube. So that's what I do, because I'm not an affiliate. I'm not taking any profit, and YouTube's not taking any profit. So yeah, Restream.io. They're really good for Twitch affiliate, or for non-affiliates if you just want to, like, I don't have to deal with backups and that kind of jazz. Honestly, I don't know what the hell's this gonna do, so I'm gonna YOLO this. Honestly, I think this is either gonna be catastrophically bad or it's gonna be okay. We will find out. I'm just gonna drop a breakpoint there. Oh, I don't want to start. This is the problem with it, is the fact it'll start a run. So I'm just gonna F8 this. F8. Parameter. Okay, so you can see here, because it's an empty string, and then it tried to pass something in, but it didn't work. That's interesting. I'm just gonna do a quick right. I'm literally, this is not a good test, but I'm just kind of winging it so I can get something. Oh, why is it having a whinge about that? Split paragraph, message. Well, since it should still be there, so I'm just gonna run this. Oh, okay. So what we might do is I might actually just get split paragraph, and then I'm going to accept if so what I'm going to do is just add a null there, just be null, like so, and then it'll return. Yep, so essentially, then what I can do here is I can add, allow, empty string. Like so, and then from that we can then, it'll accept those items, which should be fine now. So what I can actually do is just launch the file and drop a breakpoint there. It's not recognized as a name of function because it can't find it, because it's probably in the wrong bloody spot. Yeah, because it's in the wrong spot. This is going to be interesting because we don't need that. We probably can just change that like that. Error code and describe block. I'm just going to do this. Oh, that's gonna suck. Cannot find HTML agility pack. Okay, because it's trying to load. This is going to be a tough one actually to deal with. I'm just trying to think how I'm going to deal with this because I need to call it. You know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to do this. Okay, cool. So what we can do now is I can say like that. Okay, we just need to rerun that again. What are we at? DOSOS. So what we can do is just change that. That should work. Yep, that's loaded in. And then we can load our CliXML in, which is definitely not going to work. So we actually need to do that. So tests like so. Let's go ahead and rerun that. Cool. Okay. Let's just see what happens. How'd that not actually run a test? Oh yeah, it did. Okay, cool. Should be a single message. Okay, index 6. Alright, let's put a edit breakpoint. Let's put a criteria based on this. So now we've got our criteria breakpoint hit. I just want to see what this is. No, it's going to be the next one round. Let's insert another inline breakpoint. Let's have a look at the message. Yep. Okay, cool. Split paragraph. Why is that having issues? Supply values for the following parameters, but I am. Unless... Do I need to actually... Why is that not working? That works. But if I pass message in... What type is message? It might be a different type. It's type string. Interesting. So let's see, because I've seen this happen a few times. No. Why is it? It's expecting type string. And why is it not liking that? I would have, maybe it's the message itself. Alright, let's try this. Is it detecting as a multi-line, is it? God, and people's dots. It drives me bonkers. I tend to ship a modules folder rather than use the profile. Yeah, I haven't really used the profile, so I kind of like, oh, I don't really know what the dealio is. Like, so you just kind of have a separate folder to essentially, so yeah, that would make better sense because then you just dot source the that specific item in when you need to test it. That's interesting why it's having an issue there. I'm just trying to work out why, and I think it's to do with the string. So what I'm gonna do. You know, it makes me. I'm gonna step in. I have a sneaking suspicion because this is a recursive function. It might be actually a recursive issue. Yeah, it's nothing to do with the fucking message. It's to do with my recursive. If you add your root directory, it appends to the end of the PS module path when the host spins up, so you can just use this the modules per normal. Okay. It'll definitely do that. I'll definitely do that. I'm just gonna. That's actually, yeah, way better. I think what's gonna happen is this. Why is that not working? Is because it's not accepting pipeline input. What's it called? Allow pipe. Oh no. I always forget this attribute and I use it all the time. It's pipeline input. It's value from pipeline. That's what it is. There we go. So now there's nothing wrong with my code. It was just let's remove allow breakpoints. Let's go ahead and rerun this. That's bad juju right there. That's seriously bad juju. It's having a full on. There's an infinite loop going on. We've got an infinite loop. All right. Things are not working. Things are breaking catastrophically. All right, let's figure out why we give PowerShell a chance to actually stop. It's gonna kill it. Restart it. So what I'm gonna do is just drop a breakpoint on here and work out what the dealio is and why is it trying to have an issue. Alright, so it's split it. What's it split it down the middle? 5 and 6. That's interesting because middle of paragraph 28. What's the paragraph? So essentially, what's the char limit? 50. Stream rec schedule for tomorrow night. For tonight. Oh, hello, cat. Are you having a good time there? You're gonna soon want to come on and say hello to everyone. Just, oh, she's watching the mouse. She's like, yep, that is something I can kill. We have an infinite loop here, and I suspect the reason why we have an infinite loop is because you've got dots at the beginning and dots at the end. So I'm gonna run this again. So now we've indexed in 1. I just want to see what the paragraph is now. Well, it's nothing, and it's not splitting. That should have split, and it didn't. That's a problem. Why didn't that work? Oh, because I'm trying to split on a value. Oh. Okay, so the reason why that's not working is because what I'm doing is I'm using the split, but I shouldn't be using the split. Because split is splitting on an actual character, but I actually need to use a substring split. So, can split actually split on a index? I don't think it can. Oh, it can. Char. Oh, that's character, params. I just want to. So it'll have to be a substring. So, I'm just gonna. No. So it's gonna say 3. So that's 4. Actually, that's interesting. It says 5. Yeah, give me 2 secs. I'll just add you as a mod and that'll fix it. Count settings. I'll just turn links on. No, it's none of that. That's substringing off the end. That's not that one. Security and privacy, connections, recommendations, channels and videos. I have like no idea where it's gonna be. Oh, hang on, I think I found it. No, that's raids and stuff. Where do you add mods? Channels you can stream to your channel. Okay, moderation, here we go. Auto mod rule sets. That's not that one. Block terms, permitted terms. Block hyperlinks. Alright, give that a go now. Okay. Yeah, I think it's worked now. I'll just paste that in there for you. But I did, hyperlinks are now enabled, so you should be able to get that to work. Alright, so I need to actually, I thought substring trimmed from the beginning. Oh, you're kidding. Okay, so I'm just thinking of how I need to do this. So if you've got 4 characters, starting and ending, okay, and then we need to substring the, that's a problem because I need to split. I'm just trying to think how I'm going to actually split that into an array. I think what I'm going to need to do here, because you have, I actually need to write another function, which essentially allows me to split on a substring, but essentially still pass out an array so we can just continue to use the pipeline. Because substring's going to essentially do that, and then we have to kind of. Actually, I wonder if they, I'm just going to have a quick Google because there might be a way. Azure. Oh, sorry, Azure. PowerShell split string on char. Oh, not on char, on index. On index. on char index. Meow. 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 Do you want to come and say hello to everyone? Come on, come here. Come here. Hello! Aren't you a little hugger? um. She's she hates being touched, but she's a rag doll, and like she's the most awesome cat. Like, easiest cat to be around with a baby. I have no issues with her being around Clea, or being around my little kid. She's very she's just really she's very gentle cat. She never bites, she never scratches. Like, she hates being cuddled, but she just whinges about it, and yeah, so, and it's really, really nice. She's an excellent cat to have. And people say, you know, obviously they get scratched by cats and things like that, and yeah, cats, you know, obviously they do scratch, and she's definitely an exception. And now you're just sitting there all photogenic like, aren't you? Meow! I'll give you a bit of a pat. There you go. You like a good back scratch, don't you? Yeah, you do. Alright, so anyway, we need to split on an actual index item, which I don't think it will. I think it's only doing it on on an actual character, which sucks. But that's okay, because we're going to write some code to do it anyway. Well, hang on, what's this doing? Following statement is placed in 3 substrings. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so it still doesn't do what exactly I want. And the problem is I can't just guess and get Split to do it for me, due to the fact that it needs to be in the middle. We need to cut it right down the middle, and if essentially we need to work out where the middle is and then cut it. So, alright, we need to write some extra code here. So, we need to write another function. Let's just call this function split split string on index. On char value. So what we can do here is I'm just gonna get param block string enter value from pipeline, and we're just gonna call this string, and then I'm just gonna bump this in. We're just gonna put a begin and process in. Begin process. And we put an end block here, like so. So, and then we're gonna need to, because this needs to be, I won't say recursive. Actually, it can just be. We actually only need a process block, to be honest. So essentially, what we need to do here is we need to split our string. And we also need another parameter. And this parameter is going to be the char. So what we can do now is we can go, we need the length. GTA. Actually, no, we don't need to worry about that. So we need to split this into 2 strings. So we're going to have, essentially it's just going to cut it in half. So, you know what, I'm just going to build an array like this. And then what we're going to do here is we're just going to go, Gonna get some food and drink until I sleep. Nice. Get something in ya. Substring. We're gonna start at 0, and then we're gonna proceed to the char value. I'm just gonna go array plus equals, like so. And then what we're going to do is going to go array plus equals string dot substring, and then we're going to go char value, and then we're going to go string dot length, and that will do a that should split it quite easily. Essentially, we can actually refactor our code quickly and do it this way. And then all we need to do is just return array. Don't need that, don't need that, get rid of that, simplify that like that. Let's just go ahead and test that. Let's just go A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K is the easiest way to visualize it. Let's put that in a string. What's the length? It's 11, so we're going to split on 5. So we can go split. Split on char val, and then we're going to say char val is 5. Index and length must recur to a location within the string. So not liking. Just quickly do. Sorry, I'm just quickly going to go string dot substring. I'm going to go 0 and 5. Okay, that works. And then we're going to say 5 to 10. The reason why is I actually need to subtract. It's how many characters it's looking for, so we need to do that. Like so. So that'll fix that, like so. So if we try it again, there we go. So A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K. Perfect. Alright, so now we can actually just split it on that. We don't need those parameters, therefore we've got our own using param block. And then I can just say and then we can basically say middle like that. That should fix it. Alright, so we fixed that. Let's go ahead and rerun our tests and see if we fix our problems. Which kind of file? Now this oh, okay, so we've got a thing there, so all we can say is let's just say 0. Like so, let's go ahead and rerun our tests. I don't know how the hell it guessed that was there where it needed to split it. That's a bit broken. How did it... Okay, let's have a quick look at what it's doing here. So get indices, paragraph, get indices of. Okay, so these are the indices of where it's at. Then it's getting the middle of the paragraph, which is 28. Split using the exact mass of closest match. So it's saying middle of paragraph. It might be because it's removing. No, that still wouldn't make sense. It should be like there. But for some reason, middle is 5 and 6. How the hell did it guess that? What's indices.length? It's 10. So essentially, it's getting the indices of all the it's getting all the characters of paragraphs. So if we run that, you can see here, this is every full stop in that string. So you got 12, 13, 14, 15. And then it's basically saying from 0 to indices length. Indices length is 10. So it's stepping through each of the indices and then working out is it the middle of the paragraph. So it's basically saying the index is 5 and 6. Okay, so we need to get the index value of 5 and 6, or 5 for example. So if we go indices 5, that's where it's at. So if we, that's the problem there. So let's go ahead and fix that. So it's actually an index value. That should look a little better. So let's go ahead and rerun our tests. And let's just test this. There we go. That's much better. So now we've split our paragraph in half with the excessive dotties. I thought it was just beautiful. Lol. That should continue to run. Okay, we still got some errors, so we're gonna need to test that. He's writing a lot of messages. Alright, let's have a look at why it's throwing errors. Cannot index into a null array. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to put a break on it. So anytime we get an error, we're just going to suss it out. Okay, we've got an error. Why do we have an error here? So let's have a look at our errors. Why do we have an error here? Let's have a look firstly. Okay, we cannot index into a null array. Why can't we index into it? What's in here? Nothing. Okay, what's the length? 1. What's the middle of the paragraph? 65. Okay, this is the interesting part, because if we have a look at the paragraph, okay, we've got some King James. So I would say what we're probably going to need to do is, you can see here, it doesn't actually have the end of the sentence is at the end there, so that it kind of negates it. So what we're probably going to have to do is pretty much just go for a blunt cut if it can't find it. So what we're going to need to do is, what was middle? Where was middle? Middle was null. So what we're going to need to do here, we're going to basically say if middle is null, then we are literally cutting it. We're going to basically say middle is, where's middle of paragraph? 65. We're literally going to do this. And we're just going to cut it in half that way. So literally it's just going to do a blank cut. Not the best thing for sentiment, but it will work. So once we've done that, I'm just going to write a quick comment. Contains so what we can do here, now the only concern I'm worrying about is the fact that middle changes. So you can see this is actually an index. We're using an index array of the values. That changes here. So what we're going to need to do is we're just going to declare some params. And what we're going to do is we're going to say charval is going to be middle of paragraph, like so. We don't need that then. And then we can put an else here. We can declare a separate set of parameters, and we can basically say that. And then, oops, and then rather having to deal with shenanigans, we can just splat it in. I'm just gonna say otherwise. So how do you spell sentence? Otherwise, split. On the matched. Like so. Let's go ahead and rerun our tests. Still getting some errors. Should contain expected 2 but got 3. Okay, so I thought should be I have to have a quick look at should and pesta. Pesta should. I don't want an actual, I want a figurative. Okay, that's case sensitive. Greater or equal. Just go ahead and rerun that. I'm also very intrigued to see what the actual output's going to be on this. So I'm going to actually write this out in a verbose. Okay, it looks like it only captures 200 messages at a time, but that's fine. So we're going to go write verbose, and then we're just going to go result. And then we're going to enable verbose. Okay, what we can do, let's do this. I should fix it. Okay. Often I bring you to bring nothing. That's interesting. You see how it's just cut it. Okay, you see it's cut it there. And then it's cut it again. The reason why it's done that is because essentially in this recursive function, it's hit the first criteria rule, or the first, where is it? It's met this specific condition, so essentially it's cutting on the full stop. But because the second one, we're literally mid-sentence, it's cutting just on the middle because the full stop's at the end of the sentence and it needs to split it in half, so it's just going to cut it. So that's actually really good. So it looks like this is working quite well. All right, sweet. So we should be able to now expand. It looks like my tests are happy. We can now go ahead and get it ready for sentiment analysis. So the next thing we need to actually do is have a look at our profile. So split paragraph is good to go. Very comprehensive process to actually do that, but it's always the cool part. So size limit is 1 meg, request limit. So essentially we're going to read the user post, split the paragraph on the character limit, and then we're going to start working out how to do this. So now what this is going to do is, before we send it to sentiment analysis, it's going to batch the request. So essentially it needs to be able to build the request out according to the set of rules. So for example, the character limit, which is what we just tested, the size of the request, and the limit of the request. So the size is a meg and the limit is 1,000. So this is the next part. So we should hopefully be able to have something being sent today if I can work quickly enough. So we've got body for each rest.body. So where's rest? So it's creating the body. I'm just kind of thinking about this. Now this is the schema that it needs to actually send, I'm pretty sure. Let me just have a look at. I'm not interested in that. I'm just gonna quickly. I just need to see how the body's built. So it's a post. Okay, so you got language, ID, text. Okay, so what we need to do here, so we've got the language, ID, and text. So let's go ahead and build that out. What do I want to call this? Just gonna call this. We can just call this documents. Ooh, that's not gonna work. What I'm gonna do? This is actually not correct. not correct at all. So I'm going to call this documents. So okay, so it's going to be called documents, and it's going to be an array like so. So what we can do here is we can then just say I think I'm just going to basically add it all in there. If it does multiple splits, so if there's a split that's done more than once, I think what I'm going to do is send it as an individual request so I can track that, hey, this is a split message, and then I can kind of just track that message and then capture the sentiment back and then basically append the sentiment to its respective property within my object. What we can do then is, so if we're going to now, it's actually really heavy. Like it's kind of really pushing my brain cells to the limit at the moment. Okay, so what we need to do here is we can go message body split paragraph. Okay, so each of these for each objects, first thing we need to do is have because this is for each user post. So I'm just okay, so we need to actually declare a counter. I'm just thinking about the logic. One of the things I've just realized is that, let's say you're iterating through a list. I actually think I'm doing this wrong, because what is happening, let's say I'm iterating through a list here. What will happen is, okay, you've got, one that's less than limit, the next one's less than limit, so they're adding and adding and adding. But then all of a sudden you'll have, let's say, a really big paragraph by that person, and it cuts it in half. It will then, how is it able to cater that for that specific scenario? In this instance right now, what it will do is it'll actually append those items to the existing array, and then treat that as a, hey, yep, this is a multi-line. Then we'll treat this as an individual entity, and because that individual entity has other all the other stuff above it, which is legitimate, that's less than the character limit, it will fail. So what I think we are going to need to do here is have when it detects that functionality and it needs to split, it actually generates a separate object, but it's already nested within one. That's the problem. It's already nested within one. So maybe what I do I have a collection that's explicitly declared within the begin block. So if it doesn't meet that and it's just added, fantastic. We don't need to deal with that kind of situation. But if we do, What it will do is it will basically add it to a separate collection with its own parameter. So essentially it rebuilds the body of the request and then adds it to its own block. Okay, this is actually forming an idea now. So instead of having a single body, it's actually creating it. You declare an array of parameter bodies, and then from that, what it will do is once it meets a limit, it then goes ahead and creates a new one. So if it's an actual like if it's a character, a split paragraph limit, and it needs to split that, then it'll create a separate body for just that specific split paragraph, which will fix all those issues, and then it'll then pick up where it left off, and then it'll create a new object and then continue on, and then add. And so that way we can preserve index without any issues. I'm just trying to work out a way we can tag him. And the way we can tag them is essentially okay, this is making a little bit more sense. Alright. This is actually quite difficult to kind of mitigate. So what we need to do first is we actually don't have a rest body. Gonna get ready for my stream later. Have a good weekend, Michael. No worries, Veronica. Thanks for stopping by. I hope to see you guys. I hope to see you next time. So what I'm thinking we need to do here is we need to declare essentially as a rest body array, like so. And this is where they all go into. Our rest body will have that. Man, batching is a pain to kind of build out. Like I could literally take a shortcut right now and just send an individual request, but I'm going to pay for it. Like sentiment analysis ain't cheap, mate. Just thinking how I'm going to do this. Okay, so the first thing it's going to do is it's going to message body, and then it's going to split it. Now, let's just call this paragraphs, like so. Now, if there is, and then we can go dot count is greater than 1. Actually, this is going to be an interesting thing. We need a switch. I'm going to go switch paragraphs dot length or dot count. And then we're going to go 1. This is going to go 0. And then we're going to go 1. And then we're going to do an expression, and we're just going to say is greater than 1. Like so. They do different things. So 0, great, we got a 0. I have no idea how to handle that, so we're going to skip. We need to do, like in the global scheme of matching, we're going to need to do things. This is some painful logic. Okay, 1's quite easy, so we can actually just deal with that. So essentially that gets added to the existing red's body. So we can say paragraphs for each object, and what we can say is I actually need to write this one first before I can write the normal one. Single to its own rest request. So we can go. We actually need to declare it again. So what we're gonna say is I'm actually just going to go body is equal to, then we got so we need to redeclare it. And then what we can do here is we need to append the items to body. This is like some serious in-depth logic right here. So now what we're going to do is we're now going to go body dot documents dot plus equals. So we're going to add to that array, and we're going to add our own hash table, which is going to contain that. Like so. That needs to have an ID, so we need a counter that needs to be redeclared as well. Big body and counter, ID counter. We're just gonna call this. And then we're gonna go ID counter, and then we're gonna go post increment. And then we're actually going to then say current item within the pipeline. Okay, we don't have that then, so technically we're gonna need to do this. So essentially body documents, and then it's going to add the paragraph item to that. We can just go ahead and copy that. So essentially that does, it'll redeclare it, redeclare the counter, good to go. The one thing that we do need to do is, because we're creating a custom item here, so we've got documents, body, I'm actually going to create a corresponding, essentially a parent object, PS custom object, that we can use to track PS custom object that we can actually use to we actually need a parent custom object so we can track the actual index value of where we are in the actual where the current index value in the message. So remember, if we go back to these are all our messages here, we need to make sure that we're using the ID here, so we actually know we can still match then the result back. So we actually need to kind of create a relationship there. So that's what we're going to need to do here to actually make sure that we can do that, because then we're just essentially just blindly sending data to sentiment analysis, and there's no way to match the data back. So we need to create a custom object here, and what we need to do here is we've got we're just going to call this message ID, like so, and then we're just going to call this body, like so. We're not going to call it PS custom object. We're just going to call this. Message. Let's just call this REST request message. That will help me articulate it. We've got a message ID, which is joined to the body, which will allow me to join to our ID here. So that'll work there. And then what we can do here is we can say, what are we passing through? User post. Okay, so then we can just basically say here user post.id. Actually, it'd be technical. Let's just call it user post. User post. So essentially, it'll put the ID, and then we've got our documents. And that's our REST body. I'm just going to call that REST body, so it makes it a little bit more. We can splat it in, or actually no, it needs to be body, because when we actually no, we can just call it REST body. And then from here, then what we need to do is we need to go dot that, add that. So essentially it's going to then add it to its own custom item, which is joined. Good. The next thing we're going to need to do then is we can now do this one. And so what we need to do here is we can basically say we've got REST object message user post.id. That actually is not going to work. We actually need to paste the full just having a thought. I think this is going to get a little more complicated than I'm thinking. Because the problem is, how do I track the ID on those other ones? So, what do I do? How am I going to deal with that? What I think we can do is maybe we just have... Okay, yeah, I know what we're going to do here. So... Oh, and then the other thing we need to do here is... what we can actually do... Honestly, this is better suited as a class, but I'm just going to kind of do this way for the time being. And we need... redeclare. The reason why we need to redeclare it is essentially so that we can clear whatever existing items we had in there. So if we've redeclared it, we're good to go. We've got the message ID. So my idea is maybe what I can do is I can associate the message ID as an array and then paste the array item and then the corresponding value there, and it can just be an index that way. Yeah, I can just paste the ID and then whatever's in there is in there, so that actually will work quite well. And we're going to need to redeclare the ID counter as well. I'm going to definitely need to refactor this code. This is not ideal at all. So once we've done that, essentially what we're going to need to do now is this essentially becomes, we need to add the ID and the item. So what we can do here is we can go message ID, and then we can just go plus equals, and then we can say user post ID, and then what we can do here is we can basically say documents. This is some serious code. Then we can go documents plus equals, and then what we can do here is that. So essentially we're adding the ID as an array item, and then basically we can use that data to match it back. So I'm thinking, what do I need to think about with an empty item? What's going to happen here? So if it's empty, we'll just skip it, like so. And then from that, okay, so we've done that, which that'll work quite well. Process different length, different item counts of the array will behave. So we need to split. So empty item, do nothing. Let's just do that. Single item, add to existing rest body, multiple items. Do that. Okay, now one of the things it's starting to come together in my mind now, so we actually need to declare this when the function initializes. The reason why is because it needs to exist before we index into our process block. So, declare the rest body, like so. And that way it can then add if it doesn't have multiple. If it does, then it'll just create a single request off that and then redeclare itself, which is fine. So that then fixes that issue, and now this actually makes a lot more sense. Now we need to look at the size of the requests, which, to be honest, I honestly don't think we need to worry about that. And the item limit. So essentially, all we need to do then is redeclare it and then tack it back on. So it will then break it down that way. So I'm going to skip the size limit for the time being. We can just do the rule of the size limit. So what we can do here is we're going to need to redeclare. And what we can do here is we can say if ID counter is equal to, let's just say 9999, we can then break it down, and that will redeclare it like so. So essentially we have multiple items, single items, so essentially here what will happen is if it's at 999, I'll just go ahead and redeclare and create a new item. And one thing I actually just forgotten, which I think we're going to need to do, is we actually need to add the output into, this needs to be a class. If we're redeclaring this too many times, I'm gonna refactor that into a class later, but that can just be that can literally just be like new object, and then we can literally have a method to do this for us. So we can just basically say add and redeclare. The method could be, you know, add existing, redeclare new, or something along those lines, and it'll just go ahead and do it for us, so we don't have to have all this extra code, which will actually simplify it quite substantially. But that all aside, what we're going to need to do here is we actually need to add this to our array. So we don't need to do anything with greater than 1. If we have a single item, or if we have a multi-item, we need to add go plus equals like so, and we need to add that down here as well. So essentially it'll add that post request to the array. So I think it's time to test, because I think we've pretty much got it into a semi-working state. So how am I going to test this? What I'm going to do is just comment that out so I can pass the full object, and then I can just pass a deserialized object in. So let's just launch that file. Let's see if it actually worked. No issues there, great. So what we can do here now, let's go have a bit of a play. So we have XML, no, it's A, no, okay, we're just going to call it XML, XML, and we're just going to use our sample data, functions to test, mocks. So now we have XML in there, and essentially is a deserialized form of it. So if we go get member, we can see here it's a PS custom object. It's just a deserialized PS custom object, which is completely fine. So what we can do now is we can actually go ahead and give this a run. I honestly don't think this is going to work that well, but we will give it a go. So I've just dropped a breakpoint on there because I actually want to see it work. And I'm just going to call this XML. Okay, let's pass that in like so. Object input cannot be bounded in parameters because the parameters don't take pipeline input, or properties do not match the parameter of pipeline input. Okay. I was going to say... Okay, we're going to need to do it in here. Import XML, and then we're going to say slash tests slash mock slash test the mocks. No, try that again. To rest body. XML. Okay. So first thing we've got here is we've got a whole bunch of content that have been initially declared. I just want to have a look at what our user post is. So you can see here it's just passing the full Shazam. So that's our first issue. That's not working properly. So it's just passing as a pipeline. If we had type specific, we won't have to worry about this, but we are, yeah, we're going to have issues when we're just kind of hacking this together for the time being. So let's just have a look at user post. Okay, cool. So you can see here we have message, an empty message body, and what should happen is, I'm just going to drop a breakpoint there. We should literally have a count of 0. Oh, we have a count of 1. Because it's null. It's returning null. Okay, so what we're going to need to do here... if we're not using it, we're going to basically just bin it. So let's go ahead and split paragraph, and if it's null, we are not doing anything. So I'm just going to rerun that. So if it's string or empty, it gets excluded. There's no issues with that. So I'm just going to rerun my test, and we've got issues. So I just want to suss this out, make sure that it's alright. Expected 1, but we got 0. We need to add an additional test here. So I'm just going to say else if message is less equal is not equal to 0, and then we can just say else. This is really terrible test, but I'm just trying to get this. I just need to make sure that this is should be empty. But we just need to make sure this is working. So let's just give this another run. Should be a single message, and it is getting all sorts of baddies. Should be a single message. Oh, message.length. Okay, it looks good. Okay, I'm just going to can that. That looks alright. I think there's no issues now, we fixed it. Alright, so let's head back to our code. So what we need to do now is minimize that, head back to here. So essentially splitting our paragraph, and we need to test the output of that. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and continue. So let's have a look at our count now, because our count should be 0 for the first couple because they're empty. Yes, cool. So essentially those should break. So I'm going to drop a breakpoint on here, and then I'm going to drop a breakpoint here. So let's go ahead and run it again. Okay, cool. Alright, let's have a look at what's in the paragraphs. Okay, perfect. What's its length? What's the char length? 57. What's the char limit? 5,000. Yeah, so it's a large character limit. I think we're going to have to reduce it to test this component, but for the time being, yeah, we need to, I just want to see this work. So what's its message user post ID? Okay. And what I'm going to do here, so I'm just going to pop a breakpoint, and we've got write output body, so I'm just going to stop that because that's not going to do anything. What we actually do need to add there is we need to add rest body array. I'm actually just going to do this. I'm just going to little YOLO this without any breakpoints and see what happens. Definitely don't recommend this, but I'm just going to test it anyway. Okay, I just want to have a look at this. Empty. So it's not playing ball. The reason why it's not playing ball is because I have forgotten to actually add the output. So and then what we need to do here is we need to put a return, because essentially we need to skip to the next item, since we're in a process block. And we should do the same here as well. We need to skip. let's go ahead, rerun that, test it again. Okay, see, the first thing we've noticed here is we've got multiple coming back. Alright, so that's not going to work because essentially it's just going to create a new one on each line, which we can't have. What we actually need to do is in our end block is say if ID counter is not equal to 0, essentially we need to add the last output into the array. So we can do that on the last, on the out. So we can say like that, and that should fix it. So now if we go ahead and rerun our code and then restart that, let's have a look at it. We should have a single item. We don't have anything. Okay, what's ID counter? Is 0. Why is it 0? Is it indexing? Okay, so we've actually we can get rid of it altogether. Like so. Do that, do that. Let's test that again. Okay, now we're actually getting something. So if we go message ID, yes, ID. Okay, so we got 49. You can see that's actually interesting. You can see we got it essentially. Okay, something wrong there because it's 0 all the way up to 49, and then look at it, just repeats again and again and again. So something's not right there. So we need to fix that. The next thing that we need to take a look at. So let's have a look at the documents. Okay, so you can see now what I'm going to quickly do is just do this. How many times is it found? Okay, so that looks like it's added them all. Okay, so I think that looks fine. Now we just need to fix the ID up. So let's go ahead and fix that up. So what we have here is the user post ID that's getting added. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop a breakpoint here. Oh, hang on, not there. We're going to add it here. I'm just going to stop that. I'm going to hit that. And then we're just going to have a quick look at that. So userPost.id has, let's just have a quick look at this. Okay, what I'm going to do is add a watch here. Let's go ahead and add a watch. Let's go .id. I just want to see what it does. 6. Oh, okay, we're just going to continue. 10, 12, 13, 14, 18, 20, 21, 22, 23, 30, 32, 33, 34. Okay, why did it start back at 0? That's the question right there. So let's have a look at that. The ID is back at 0. And it's back at 0. So let's have a quick look at what did we pass in XML? It was XML, wasn't it? Yep, okay. So what we can do here is let's have a look at XML 0. And you can see here that's the ID of 0, and if we go user post, it's the exact ID again, except it actually has a valid body, which means that it's not a problem with this code, it's a problem with the parent code and how it's actually extrapolating and putting an ID on it. So, we need to go back up the chain and go hunting, and bug hunting. So let's go ahead and stop that, and we are going to need to sort out why did that happen, because that ID shouldn't be there. So let's go up and take a look at user post. So user post is here. Actually, no, it'll be in the actual function itself. So if we go to run, and we have, this is what it's doing. So where's page number? Oh, that's page number, that's fine. So we have ID counter, which is here. And so now ID counter is responsible for incrementing that. Nothing else is. Well, it should be anyway. We'll check up on that, but I'm pretty sure it is. So let's have a look at ID counter. ID counter is 0, so it's just basically adding. So for each post in posts, go ahead and add it. For each request in HTTP requests, that's why. So ID counter. So the reason why is because that is a different request on a different page, therefore it has a different ID. So what we need to do here is we actually need to move our ID counter out of that loop. And we're just gonna, like so. Now we need to actually refresh our data because our data's bad now. So let's go ahead and clean everything up. I'm just gonna restart the console, clean everything from memory. I'm going to restart you, and then open up a new session. And then what we're going to do here is we are going to say we've got split. We need to go ahead and start our function app. So what we're going to do is just go ahead and change our run profile. Let's go ahead and start it. So now we've started it, let's go and actually pull that data up. Grab old mate. And if we go and have a look, we should see a lot of requests heading off. Okay, so that should come back. Let's take a look at result. Cool, we have content. So let's go ahead and go result.posts. Yep. Cool, and let's go export to XML, and you can see here we got an ID of 199, which is way better. Let me get a literal path. I'll just go path. Just use path. Dot tests. Dot mocks. So that's now cleaned up our code, so we can go ahead and biff that. Go ahead and start a new one, and we can go ahead and stop our function app. Alright, so now what we can do is jump in integrated console, and we can go and give this a crack. So what we can do here is, just thinking out loud now. So now we can go ahead and rerun this. We just need to change our profile. So let's get our XML. And then what we can do now is actually test it. So we can go XML convert to REST body. REST body, like so. I'm actually just going to have a look at the end. Let's have a look at message ID. Here we go, look at that, that's fixed it. If we go REST body, and then documents, that looks good. There's one thing that it is missing, which is the fact that we actually, the document requires a language and ID, so that isn't working, so we're going to need to fix that up. But pretty much it's very close to right now to being ready for sentiment analysis, which is actually really exciting. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's go ahead and fix that part. Body, paragraphs, just kind of so that's doing it because it's just adding a hash table, so we actually need to add that to here. Like so. So language, ID. That should be fine. So what we can do now is let's go ahead and rerun that. And retest our code. Get documents. We have nothing. Okay, so it's not working properly. Let's have a look why. So we're adding a hash table. I'm just going to drop a breakpoint on here and try and work out why. So what I'm going to do here is just do that and see what happens. So that's working. So I just want to see what's in here now. So that's there. Let's go ahead and see what it does again. So that's actually adding. So that's working.
look at this. So for some reason it's not there. But it's there, so let's work out why that's the case. Something is clearing it, and we need to work out why. So I don't think it's going to be into that. I don't think it's an empty item either, because it doesn't really matter actually. This can just be a return. It doesn't even need to do any further testing. It can just skip. Skip. It could be that. That's kind of what I'm thinking at the moment. Let's go have another crack. I don't think it's there. Yeah, it's not there. Oh, hang on. It is there, it's just I couldn't specify the property so there's rest body, and then there's obviously documents. So now if I obviously have rest body, I can actually convert that to JSON in preparation for sending it to Azure for sentiment analysis. Look at that, that's really cool. So we are one step closer now, and I'm ready to get that work. I'm ready to finish that. So that should return a big old object. Yep, cool. Alright, so that's working. Alright, so now where's convert rest body used? We need to go to get sentiment. So now we're basically passing the object. We can now convert all the users' posts. We don't even need this, that can just go into REST requests. Matching it back is going to be a bit of a challenge, but we will get there. So what we're going to need to do now is we can actually just go ahead and go user posts. Let's just go REST request. We can go user posts, and we can just go convert to what was it? What were we working with? REST body. REST body request. I was going to call it REST request. So essentially it'll take the user body, pipe it into convert to REST body, which will provide all the subsequent REST requests, because it'll basically build out the batch, and then from that we can go from there. So it's 8 o'clock right now. I'm going to probably jump off soon, so you'll end this soon, but we will get this sorted first. So essentially the next thing we need to do is we actually need to iterate. I'm going to write the pseudocode, iterate through each so we can just go for each REST request and REST requests. And then what we can do here is we can basically build up our parameters, URI method, and then we can just basically say our body is REST request dot REST body, convert to JSON, and that's all we need to do. And then what we can do down here is we can then send it to invoke REST method to sentiment analysis. Let's do a try catch. Catch, right error. My daughter is outside and she is loving life. So we can do that. Do an error action stop. Actually, no, we don't need to. It'll catch it anyway. And then that will basically catch it. And the final thing we're going to need to do is join it back up. We're going to need to. We need to do something with here. We need to join it back up. So essentially, what we're going to need to do here. So, yeah, unfortunately, I think today we're not going to be able to get to actually sending it to sentiment analysis. It took a little longer than I expected. But we got it as a rest body, so that's a significant win for us today. So I'm happy with that. Yeah, good. It's a good win today. So yeah, I hope you guys liked it. For today, we're going to leave it there for today, and I will probably pick it up next Tuesday, and we'll continue on where we left off. And then yeah, and hopefully we can maybe the end of next week have a working sentiment analysis product, and then I can start refactoring the code and making it a little bit more cleaner, and then I can pop it up on GitHub for everyone to use. So and I might even host it using APIM. But anyway, guys, hope you guys liked it. Hope it was very entertaining to actually see some real in-depth coding. We're kind of dealing with a lot of kind of different issues here. Yeah, I hope to see you guys next time. If you liked it, make sure you subscribe and do all that kind of jazz. And yeah, I hope to see you guys next time. And also follow me on Twitter. Actually, I think I've got PowerShell Michael. So if you've search PowerShell Michael, you'll find me on Twitter, and then follow me on Twitter. When you can actually, I usually tweet fairly, a day before when I'm streaming, and then about an hour to 30 minutes beforehand when I'm streaming. So anyway, guys, I hope you liked it, and bye for now. See you next time.